You all have heard of the sinking of the Titanic? Of course you have. It was quite a disaster, being the biggest and quickest cruise ship of its time, thought to be unsinkable, but then hitting an iceberg during its maiden voyage, and then sinking and leaving around 1,500 people dying, including Leo. Nothing funny about it here. But have you heard about the sinking of Vasa? Vasa was a Swedish war galleon commissioned in 1626 by Swedish King Gustavus II Adolphus the Great, Lion of the North of the dynasty of Vasa. Can you guess who named the ship? Being at war with Poland and Lithuania and thinking about joining the 30 Years' War, which was not called like that at the time, Gustavus Adolphus decided to build the biggest warship the world has seen. Having lost a number of ships before, he decided to replace them all with one ship. You know how it goes, one ship to rule them all, one ship to fight them, one ship to sink them all and in the darkness find them, or something like that. The king himself defined all specific criteria for the ship, and when it was finished, it was without a doubt one of the biggest ships the world has seen at that time. It was 69 meters long, 11.5 meters wide, 54 meters high, and since its intended use was to serve as Sweden's battle fleet flagship, it had a great array of detailed ornamentation. Up to 500 sculptures representing Greek and Roman gods and mythical creatures were featured mostly in the ship's stern. Being a ship that was supposed to win Sweden's wars, it had also 64 bronze cannons, which were more than many fleets had combined at that time. Before Vasa could set sail for the first time, it first had to pass a lurch test. This involved around 30 sailors running from port to starboard side, rocking the ship back and forth. Yeah, exactly like in the scene of Pirate of the Caribbean. Although they did not intend to flip the ship, it was more a test of stability rather than malicious intent. After just 3 runs, Vasa was lurching way too much and the failed test abandoned, suggesting that the ship was unseaworthy. But despite this obvious design flaw, nobody was brave enough to tell King Gustavus Adolphus. And so the glorious day came. On the 10th of August 1628, Vasa lifted its anchor and set sail for the first time. Its objective being to leave the dockyard in Stockholm and join a nearby Swedish fleet. All went exactly as planned, of course. Vasa shipped out of the harbor, opened its cannon ports in order to salute the people of Stockholm, and sank immediately after that without even firing the salute. You see, what happened there was that the ship was so heavy that the opening for the cannons were mere centimeters away from the waterline, and the slightest wind will tilt the ship in a way that the water could enter in those openings, and thus sinking the ship. Around 35 sailors lost their life that day, despite land being very near. Luckily Vasa was not on full strength that day, and my guess is that those who died couldn't swim at all. You know, the Navy always recruits those who can't swim. But hey, don't worry too much, at least the 64 bronze cannons could be saved later. The first thing that happened after the remaining crew reached firm land was that Vasa's captain, Sofrik Hansson, was arrested, being blamed for the loss of the king's new shiny and expensive flagship. But later the court ruled that Hansson was not the one to blame for the loss, and determined that it was its own flawed design that sealed its fate. So in reality they should have blamed the king himself for sinking of Vasa. But who would do that, since he was ruling in the name of God and all that? After 303 years at the bottom of the sea, the ship was finally rescued in 1961 and put in a museum, where you can still see it today. And since you already made it to this point, why don't you subscribe to my channel? That way next week you can watch another history related video, like this one I made about Charles II and why he wasn't a bad king for Spain. Thank you, bye!